Let's talk about saving money by having your secretary or an intern do your social media for you, and why also that could be a huge disaster. What's up, guys? It's Blaine from Tiny Sparrow Marketing, and I'm here to talk to you today about a question or a scenario that we see all the time as a social media management agency. And that is the phenomenon of social media management through an intern or through our secretary or anyone else on the staff who appears to be young. Yeah. Seems like a good idea, right? Like, it's going to save you money, and in its theory of things, yes, it can be done by that person. But what we find more than anything else when this happens is that there's no penalty or cost today for not putting out social media today. And that means that if you're having an intern or secretary do your company's social media management, and it becomes a busy time of the season where time is not as prevalent as it is at other times. So your social media manager, your intern, your secretary is going to push social media to the back burner because there are other things happening in your office or your business that do have a cost when they're not done, that do have a penalty or, some type of drawback when they aren't done. So naturally, those things get prioritized in front of social media because we tell ourselves, I don't have time for that. I'll get to it tomorrow. I will get back to that as soon as I have time. And you're not getting any kind of letter from YouTube or Facebook or anyone else telling you, hey, because you didn't put out content today, that's going to cost you this much money or this much influence. No, we don't hear about that. There's just nothing. It's just radio silence, right? So there's really no hurt to it by not doing it. However, just because you don't see it or you don't feel it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And that's the phenomenon that we see more than anything else, is companies think they're doing good for their business by having a team member do their social media for them, but they're not doing it to the level that they ought to, or even just maybe not even just about level. Maybe they're not applying the schedule to it that needs to be applied. Maybe they're not applying the professionalism to it that needs to be applied. There's a lot of different reasons, but we see it all the time. And the ultimate result is that as a business, you're not getting the leads that you would like to get. You're not getting the new clients and the new accounts that you would like to get. And your accounts aren't growing the way that you would like to see them grow. We all know that social media works. We all know that there are people that are getting tremendous rewards and benefits out of it, but it's not happening for us. Why? Why is it not? And the answer to that is really simple. The answer to why our social media is not growing, for me, is going to be a three-word answer, is being consistent, persistent, and professional. You're going to hear me say these things all the time because they underlie all that we do here at Tiny Sparrow and everything that we do for our clients, because that is the core of the success. The algorithm can change, the content can change, the people doing it can change, but being consistent, persistent, and professional, those don't change. Those are fundamentals. Being consistent, meaning staying in your lane and talking about the things that are relevant to your audience. Being persistent, meaning staying on a schedule like clockwork and not missing. And being professional, meaning doing whatever it is that we're putting out, whether it's video, whether it's graphics, whether it's long form content, podcasts, whatever it is, making that as professionally as possible. Sometimes that can be done in Canva. In fact, a lot of times it can be. But it can't be done, obviously, using standard templates that look like everybody else's stuff if you're going to use Canva, right? There's a lot of tools and a lot of resources that social media management agencies like us use because we know that the content we're putting out needs to be different, and it needs to look different, and it needs to be custom made for our clients. One, because they're paying us to do it, and two, because it needs to be effective and it needs to be professional and it needs to work. What do you do if you need to do social media, but you don't have the ability to hire somebody to do just social media? One solution we see all the time is hiring a family member, a wife, a nephew, son or daughter to do it. That can work for a while until their interests go somewhere else. But at the end of the day, we see success when we see a person dedicated to social media. Full stop. A person needs to be dedicated to your social media, or it needs to be their first job. And then maybe you give them a second job that they can do once the social media stuff is done. So maybe the mindset needs to change a little bit. Instead of having your secretary be the person who also does your social media, maybe you hire somebody who does your social media, but can also do a little bit of secretary work on the side. Or maybe you hire an agency like us. Maybe it's the right thing, maybe it's not. Only you can know that. But one thing that you know when you hire an agency like Tiny Sparrow or any other hopefully any other agency, is that you're hiring into a bank of resources, and you're hiring into a bank of talent, and you're hiring into a bank of knowledge and information and expertise and experience that you're not going to get from a single person who you've asked to do your social media, especially if it's not their passion or their world or their profession. You're going to get a subpar product from a person that social media isn't their passion, right? One reason that people love working with Tiny Sparrow versus doing it other ways or ways they've done in the past is that they don't have to provide us benefits like they would an employee. They also don't have to provide a place for this person to work, and they don't need to manage and oversee that person. Instead, for less money, in most cases, they can hire us to put out their social media consistently, persistently, and professionally, and do it with the best content writer possible, the best graphic designer possible, the best hashtag researcher, content scheduler, campaign manager, creative director. We've hired the best person for each role and allow them to do what they do best for that portion of each social media post. So you're getting the best possible person doing each part of the task. So for every social media post that we make for people don't realize this, but there's a lot of steps that go into it. You've got to come up with an idea. Once you've come up with that idea, then you need to decide what the visuals should look like or what it could be. Once you've come up with the concept, you need to have somebody create a version of it, whether it's a video version or a graphic design version of the visual. At the same time, or right after, you have a content writer write the content, and that content needs to match right along with the visuals, right? Then, after you've got the visuals matched up with the verbiage and the content, then we need to send it to our client, get an approval. Once they say yes and give us the green light, then we've got to move into scheduling mode. And that means finding the right hashtags, finding the right time of day to post. Also, it means putting the graphics or the visuals into the correct format for the platform that it's going to go onto. So where most people assume that you can just make one piece of content, go into a service or a website that lets you put that one piece of content in and then hit a button that sends it out to 5-6 different platforms. Those exist, definitely they exist, but it's not the best way to put the content out there. The best way to put the content out there is to put it out in the correct dimensions and format and the desired writing style and all the other little tips and tricks that we learned that are specific to each platform. And that takes time. That means posting using the best scheduling process possible. Sometimes for us, that's scheduling directly in the platform itself. Sometimes it's using a third-party tool that has resources and abilities that give us more than what we get on the platform itself. But each of them are different, and it takes time. So all in all, we find that it can take our team, 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours in total to make a single post for a client. And that's a lot more time than anybody would probably assume or predict that it would take to create social media content when they're thinking about having a secretary do it, a son, a daughter, an intern, a young person. Doing it right just takes more time, but the rewards are definitely there and the rewards are tangible. So what are you going to get out of your social media? Are you going to give it a half measured solution and get a half measured result? Or you can choose to do it the right way, the best way anyway, do it the best way and get the best results possible. Now, something that people forget all the time when we talk about social media is that it doesn't end when you hit post. For a lot of agencies, it does. A lot of agencies, they create the content, they post it, and for them, it is done. The rest is on you. But one spot where we differ, because the theory makes no sense otherwise, is that we believe in the follow-up. We believe in the engagement piece of social media. Because after all, you're hiring us or you're hiring an agency to help take work off of your shoulders, to get the task done, to get it done as best in the best way possible, and reduce stress and reduce the workload on you and your team. So you can't just assume that, we shouldn't just assume that once we post it, we're done, because that puts the onus back on your team to go in and answer questions, to follow up, to like, to follow, to engage, to interact. And that's just time consuming. So we include that in our pricing and in our packages. For anybody in our basic, it's just something that we automatically include. Sometimes people don't want it, but almost everybody does, and they should, because engagement is the manure of social media. Our posts are the seeds and our engagement is the manure. And if we want something to grow and get traction and to get better, we need to give it sunlight and water and manure. And for us, that means engagement. So our team, after we've posted something for you, we're going in there on a schedule every day to look at the comments, to respond to the comments, to like people who have liked us, to like them back, to comment back. Oftentimes we will ask a question to answer a question because it results in them replying back again. All these things trigger the algorithm. All these things show YouTube, Facebook, Instagram that people like this content. They're asking questions, they're answering questions, things are happening. This is good content. We should share it to more places. Because we're going in and showing the algorithm that we're doing the things that it needs to see in order to believe that it's good content. These are the fundamentals, people. These are the fundamentals. There are tips and tricks and ways to get around it, but they're temporary. If you want the algorithm to see that you are there for the long haul and that you are legit, you've got to do the fundamentals. You need to stay on a schedule. You need to put out content that's engaging. You need to engage with your audience, and you need to do everything professionally while you stay in your lane. That's it, guys. If you can do those things on your own, with your team, with a secretary, with a young person, with an intern, awesome. That's incredible. And if you can hire somebody whose passion is to be a social media manager, perhaps they can do that for you. But if your social media isn't getting you the results that you want, if you're not getting new clients, if you're not getting new accounts, if you're not filling your pipeline, maybe you should consider hiring a social media management agency, because it's going to level up everything across the board when it comes to your social media. You're going to get better content going out, better writing, better visuals, better video, better engagement, better scheduling practices, better business practices across the board, all these things. So in terms of what you get for the money that you spend, it's a no-brainer. It's just a hard one to visualize when you're looking from the outside in and you're assuming that social media is as simple as something as taking a picture, writing some words, and hitting post.